Okay, seeing a presence of a quorum, calling to order the meeting of the Amherst School Committee at 8:15 p.m. on Thursday, July 1st. And our first, I will start with a roll call attendance. Please state present when I call your name. Mr. Demling?
Demling present.
Mr. Harrington?
Harrington present.
Ms. Lord?
Lord present.
Ms. Spitzer?
Spitzer present.
And McDonald present. And our first item is public comment, and we have one written comment. And I did receive word that it is posted also on our agenda page for the Amherst School Committee. But I will share my screen. So that is our only comment for this evening. And as mentioned, that is posted on our agendas webpage of the Amherst School Committee. I will now turn it over to Dr. Morris for a superintendent's update.
Yep, I will keep it brief. Third meeting of the evening, right? Hopefully it's the charm. Just want to share that we received another grant to support our Comandantes program of $43,000 shared with the committee. That totals over the last 3 years over $650,000 in grants that we've received to support that program. Much of that has went to professional development for staff members, as well as some material supplies. But a lot of that's just the time that our staff needed to take to put in place a high quality, complex dual language program. So, many thanks to Katie Richardson, Shannon, who you met, Shannon Bernacchia, who's our grants manager, Katie, for putting that together, because, we started talking about it being cost neutral, and we could have run the program without these resources, but it would have been a different program. We're much better off for the continued support we receive and the grants that come in, and the grants continue to come in because of the quality of the program. It's sort of a odd thing where, you apply to these state grants, they want to see that you've got a high quality program, they want to see it continue, they do it. And so however you think about that from an incentives perspective, it's working out well for the district at the moment. So I wanted to share that. Since we last met, the elementary school graduations, I was able to attend 2 or 3. They were both lovely, and Dr. Guevara went to Crocker Farms, which was simultaneous to Fort Rivers. So that also went well. Last thing is we'll have an update soon on the Fort River principal search. We'll obviously do it electronically, but met with Ms. Cunningham this afternoon, and more soon on that electronically. But that is it. Just many thanks to the staff members for making the year, as bizarre as it was, a successful one for students and their incredible work to make that happen. So, oh no, I'm sorry, I do have one other update. So I apologize. The Fort River cooling. So at the current time, our plan is to continue to rent the portable unit that's outside Fort River. Continue that. We do have some funds from previous from previous capital articles. And then to explore this summer and fall the best longish term solution to the problem. It's likely looking at either renting or buying some level of mobile unit to be exactly where the current mobile unit is. We'll get some data and information on that over the summer, but we will have cooling in the fall. That system's working incredibly well, actually, significantly better, frankly, than the system that was the rooftop unit. It looks unlikely, although we are exploring it, that we can replace that rooftop unit. They don't make 50-year-old or 48-year-old units, and retrofitting is both costly and somewhat risky in terms of the efficiency and effectiveness of the system. So we'll have more when we get together in August on that, but I wanted to reassure you all and the public that we will have cooling at Fort River in the summer for the staff members who work there, including custodians who do heavy amount of lifting and moving and very physical work. We also will have cooling in the fall, and I think a more 4 to 5 year solution we'll talk about in the fall about what's the best path forward. So we will be exploring that, but I want to reassure people who thought the temporary chillers were moving away like at 5 o'clock on last Friday that they are not moving anywhere. We have them rented. They're working very effectively, and we will continue to cool the building as we want the human beings inside there to be as comfortable as possible. Sorry, I forgot about that last one.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Demling.
So that is really great to hear about the grants for the Commandantese program. And that's a really impressive number too. The total grants over the life of the program, a young program, 650,000. And you stole my thunder there a little bit, but it's definitely this feedback loop that, you know, the thoughtfulness of the design at the outset, you know, is a major factor into acquiring those initial grants, which then go back into the quality program, which is then thoughtfully managed and evolved, which then leads to more grants. And so, you know, the overwhelming support for the program in the community is well known. I think this also underscores that not only is its financial future very secure, but it's a reflection from the awarding of these grants that it's a really high quality program as well. So, you know, thanks to all the staff that work there. That's pretty amazing. And quick question: do you have an update on the Fort River principal search?
Yeah, I said it maybe too quickly, is that we did have the finalists in last week. We'll send an update within a week out to the larger Fort River community and to you all as well. I apologize if I went over that too quickly.
Oh, I may have missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, my bad. Or maybe I just said it in my head. Entirely possible.
Any other questions? Seeing none. We'll move on to the chair's update. And I don't have any to share except, no, I lost my mouse. Except to tell you that remind you that tonight is our last meeting of the school year. And we will not see each other as the Amherst School Committee again until Tuesday, August 31st. So I hope we all enjoy a summer away from each other. And now next up is school committee announcements. Does anybody have an announcement? Mr. Demling.
You know, I was struggling a little bit with how to say this, but you know, you sort of just queued me up there with this being the last meeting of the Amherst School Committee, and it's just really forcing me to reflect on what we all, this group here in particular, has been through this last year. And I mean, I just wanted to say I've really appreciated being able to do this with you all, with this group here. You know, serving on school committee in Amherst in any situation will be an intense experience that we'll remember. But to do this in the year that we've been through, I mean, so a colleague on a previous committee earlier this evening described that this year has sucked, and I wouldn't dispute that. But it's been, I think it would have been much worse if it wasn't for the group of people we have here, and I'm just so grateful for the different ways in which we approach this really weird thing of public service in Amherst. You know, there's so many different ways, I think, to contribute to this committee, and I feel like we all have, in a very supportive way to each other. You know, and I definitely think that, you know, many years from now, when I'm older and much more senile, and I look back and I say, you know, what were some of the more intense experiences of your life? I think serving on this board in the past year will definitely, you know, be in the top 10 list. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. There's no other announcements. Then we'll move on to new and continuing business. And our first item is our discussion and vote on our superintendent evaluation. And that did make it into the packets. It did not get emailed back out to committee members, but it is in the packet that's posted on on our agendas website, and for folks watching at home, the committee members did receive it in their emails separately a couple of days ago. And so for this, all 5 of us submitted evaluations, and Vice Chair Mr. Demling worked with me on pulling together the summary memo that we all read. And unfortunately, I'm the loser that doesn't have it open in front of me. So I'll see first if Mr. Demling wants to make any comments on the summary memo as I sort of pull it up.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a pretty straightforward summary to pull together. So we took the individual evaluations and used the template that we've used in past years, where we take the first page to summarize the overall evaluation of the superintendent, with a few comments pulled from individual evaluations, and the overall rating and the impact on student learning. And so with the 5 evaluations there on a 4 rating scale of unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, exemplary, there were 2 ratings of proficient and 3 exemplary for the overall rating. So a very positive evaluation, and on the low, moderate to high scale for impact on student learning, 1 moderate and 4 high. So also very positive evaluations there. And then the rest of the document includes a summary of the evaluation process, how we rated each of the individual goals, and how we rated each of the individual standards. Also notable that on that 4 rating scale, all the ratings and the standards were either proficient or exemplary. And then the full summary comments from any evaluator that submitted summary comments at the end. So really the only qualitative thing we did in terms of pulling the document together was the middle of the evaluation summary, where we're quoting from the individual evaluations, which overall expressed gratitude for Dr. Morris for his perseverance through the pandemic, his ability to, I know he doesn't like this word, but pivot multiple times to focus not just on the emerging COVID issues of the day, but also to make forward progress on some things that are very valuable, important to our district. How was that, Ms. McDonald? Did I stall long enough for you?
Thank you. No, and you left nothing for me to add in terms of explaining how we got here. But for folks watching at home, the document is online, and as in another committee earlier today, highly recommend that you go read it, as well as the artifacts document that accompanied it from the 2 weeks prior. Yep, 2 weeks prior to this, to see all the work that the superintendent and the district has done over the past year, in addition to pivoting many times throughout the pandemic. I'm going to use that word again. Any comments? I'm going to go last again. Mr. Demling.
All right, I'll go first again. So this will seem like retro broken record stuff for if you've watched the previous meeting, but given that this is one of the more important things we do as the committee, if you're only watching the Amherst version of this meeting, that these are important things that bear repeating. So the evaluation overall from all members is unsurprisingly positive and supportive. If you've watched our meetings and followed the work, I think it reflects that. And just from my own point of view, I feel like Dr. Morris continues to demonstrate that he's an excellent match for our district, for the complexity of our district, for the intensive engagement of our community, and that he really has a very high skill level in all the areas that you might want from a superintendent. That I think is fairly uncommon for a superintendent, that you have someone who is strong on budgeting and on pedagogy and on public communications and on staff leadership and on vision, and you just go down the list, and there are no major weaknesses there, even though he does have qualities that are also exceptional. And one of the artifacts document is very educational to read in terms of the work of our district. So like Ms. McDonald said, I would if you remember the public, you want to get an idea of what kind of work the superintendent's been doing, it's also a good place to go. I also found the 360 survey input, the anonymous feedback from principals and from other central office leadership that was provided to be really enlightening, because we at the school committee get to interact with Dr. Morris at the governance level, but we don't, most of us don't get to interact with him on the operational side and see how that goes. And there was one quote that was submitted there that I thought was particularly notable, that that Mike has done an incredible job of leadership, of leading the district throughout the pandemic. He has been proactive and creative in finding solutions to ensure that not only the educational, but the social emotional needs of students and staff were met throughout this extended crisis period. He has truly been an inspiring leader. So it's just so wonderful to hear that. And I just feel very grateful and appreciative that we have such a positive working relationship with the superintendent, to the point where superintendent and the committee, put some good effort into to renew our long-term commitment to each other with the contract update. So it makes me feel really good about our district's position going forward in terms of leadership, and I'm just very grateful for the work of Dr. Morris.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Spitzer.
I'm happy to go in our established order. So I will say, I made comments at the regional school committee, and especially given this year that our goals were consistent across all both. Sorry, I'm a little tired today. Sorry. So our goals were consistent across both the regional and the Amherst School Committee. But I would like to just reiterate what I said earlier, which is that I think this has been an incredibly difficult year, and I think for all of us, but particularly for superintendents, and I would just want to express my gratitude for having Dr. Morris as our leader this year. And even though, and I said this just moments ago, with 2020 hindsight, I think all of us on this call would have potentially made different decisions than we did. Looking back, we make different decisions than those we made at the moment. But I think the one thing that really, got me through this year, or gave me, helped make this year less difficult, was knowing that Dr. Morris was at the helm for our school, because I never questioned his commitment to the core values of our district: social equity, putting the health and safety of our students, our teachers, and everybody who's in the school buildings first. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to next year. Thank you.
Sorry, any other comments? Ms. Lord.
I want to echo some of what Mr. Demling and Spitzer has said. And I also want to lift up, I think I said grace last time, about not grace under pressure, but just this positivity, even when the whole world is falling apart. Our leader, Dr. Morris, whether he felt it in here or not, he just held it all together, held all of us, had all these different plans, twisted and shaped it as we needed to, because DESE or CDC or NIH or all of the different organizations, input, families, staff, all of it. I don't know how he does it. I'm just getting dizzy thinking about it. But thank you very much for being a solid leader, modeling for us how to handle things, even when it's like, okay, maybe we need to come up with some ideas, but we can do it. Let's not give up. So, and the other thing is just the joy that kids, when I'm in the schools, I see the joy you give to them and that they give back to you, and even at graduation. So it's really wonderful also to see you in the interpersonal moments where, because some superintendents are really good at what they do, but they're also stiff and, they might not be people persons. So thank you for being a people person. And sorry, I don't know how to talk so well tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Harrington.
So first, I kind of want to echo the sentiment of Mr. Demling's colleague on that other committee he was talking about in terms of the quality of the year itself and the events that came with it. But yeah, so there's like a couple things that I just wanted to share, kind of sort of anecdotally. It's that so there was a point recently where I was talking to another, I guess, elected official here in town. We were kind of reviewing the year in all of the madness, and we both concurred that there are two positions that neither of us, for all the money in the world, all the glory in the world, would take. And Dr. Morris's was the first one that we both said. So like, in keeping with that, there was that point when we went back to school, when the elementary schools returned, and we both ended up at Crocker Farm on the, like, kind of at the moment when everyone was coming in. And then that's like, so to give you background, like, that's where I met Dr. Morris. Was, I had the two kids at Crocker, but so it was extra meaningful for me to see him, and the fact that, like, it was rough leading up to that day, right? There was a lot of rough stuff without going into ridiculous detail, but the fact that he was able to smile and like there was like this genuine happiness that he was able to exude, and I think that speaks to the character of who we have leading our district here, right? Like, I'm not gonna say you can throw everything at the end, but you can throw a lot at him, and then he can still come through, and like, that's the goal, right? To be there for those kids that were coming back. And I just really appreciated that. I appreciated it a lot this year, but that was one of those moments that I kind of feel like it was very important. And it was like a happy moment. So, in a year that I forget what the word was, but it wasn't awesome. So thank you.
And I'll try to be briefer, but I would second everything that all my colleagues have stated here, and repeat sort of what some folks said at another committee meeting. But one thing that comes to mind, we talked about how challenging this year has been, and how it's wrung a lot of people dry. And sort of the resilience that you have brought, Dr. Morris, and sort of led the district with, but also it's avoiding burnout was one of the things that we've talked about. But I think also one thing to note is not just sort of how you've led the district, but also how you've worked and collaborated with us as a committee, and partnered with us through this difficult time. And that's another sort of aspect that sort of can get frayed under extreme crises like what we've faced over the last 12, 14 months. And that, in many ways, that collaboration has served us really, really well under your leadership. And I think, as Mr. Demling suggested, that extending your contract as we have is just a sign of sort of that faith in that continued collaboration and your strength of leadership, your resilience. And I love Ms. Lord's word of grace as well under all of this pressure. I think we survived, and a lot of that had to do with your leadership. So I too thank you, and look forward to continuing our work together in the coming years. If nobody has anything more to add, then I will make a motion that we approve the superintendent evaluation as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by McDonald, seconded by Spitzer. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote. Mr. Demling?
Demling, aye.
Mr. Harrington?
Harrington, aye.
Ms. Lord?
Lord, aye.
Ms. Spitzer?
Spitzer, aye.
And McDonald, aye. And the motion passes unanimously, 5-0. Thank you. Dr. Morris, did you want to?
Yeah, I'll be quite brief. Just to thank you all for your incredibly kind words, but more than that, actually, just the support throughout the year. And I don't mean just support of me or the staff, but support of the district. You all had a huge task this year, and our public comment artifact that we could use would show the level of engagement and interest and disagreement, sometimes vehement disagreement, was sustained for months, right? And so, you know, you've all carried a large burden. Like I said earlier, I hope you throw the burden off for a month or however long, 5 weeks till we meet, till some version, some body meets again at some point in August. But you know, I think it's really mattered that we've talked, we've agreed, we've disagreed, we've refined our plans based on that piece, and that's the way it should work. And I think while it doesn't win sort of public plaudits, I think modeling that we can have those public conversations and frankly those public disagreements in a way that's collaborative is incredibly important. And so I appreciate all of your work and encourage you to not check email much for the next couple of weeks, and see your family, friends, and all the things you've sacrificed this year. And I think Mr. Demling's word intense is a good one. Whatever your opinion on the year, intense certainly fits, right? You know, the committee as well as staff, but the committee bared a lot of the brunt of that in some very challenging meetings with competing viewpoints, which is always a challenge. But appreciate your service and support of kids, and look forward to having a slightly less frenetic summer than last summer turned out to be. That's a good goal for everybody, I think, collectively, not just the people on this call, but people watching as well. So that's my hope for everyone, but appreciate all of your support and your incredibly kind words as well.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item is a discussion and potential vote on a special education funding advocacy. And this is in response to a request that we received from Senator Comerford's office requesting school districts to weigh in on pending legislation regarding special education funding. And Mr. Demling prepared a public comment for us to consider submitting to our representatives in the Senate and in the House. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Demling to talk us through that. And I will share my screen so folks can read at home since it was not in our packet.
All right, so yeah, I'll try to do the abbreviated version this time. So Senator Comerford drafted Bill S-295, which would, if adopted, would establish a commission to review the state system for financing special ed and make recommendations for a more equitable system. And so on Tuesday, July 6th, the Joint Committee on Education will have a hearing on this and a number of other bills. So this is the input process, and then they'll deliberate and see where that goes. And so so this is to support that commission, and basically the reasons why at a high level are, one, the current funding model does not fully fund the actual costs, and when that happens, districts face a really painful choice of either funding those services for intensive special needs students, which requires cutting other services, or not funding those services, or finding the money elsewhere and making the local community bear the burden. And of course, local communities vary in terms of their resources and the ability to bear that burden, which all creates an inequitable and suboptimal system that needs to be reviewed, which is the purpose of this bill. The other piece of this is the details of the funding and the line items, how they're structured and administered really matter. And so specifically circuit breaker, which is something we've talked a lot about on this committee, but the public's point of view, if you have a large, high cost of services for an individual, if it exceeds a certain threshold, the state is supposed to kick in 3/4 of the cost above that threshold. However, it's subject to appropriation, which is this really nasty phrase which allows the legislature basically not to fund it to the degree that they want to. And it becomes then a point of advocacy that committees have to get involved in, and the public and local officials, and you end up writing letters. Also, that services for intensive special needs students are funded at the way that the law says they should be. And that's wrong. And this letter expresses that directly, and with a certain level of frustration that this is something that should even be subject to appropriation. And then there's some other details about we should really be covering the full cost, right? And so if you have if some student requires an aid, there's the salary for that aid, but there's also benefits. And so when you get down into the details, these things can have a really large impact. And our community supports, as a core community value, as a moral imperative of servicing fully the needs of our students, regardless of level of need. And so the state should support that. And we should at least be looking at trying to do better here. And that's really all, at the end of the day, we're asking the state to do, is to endorse the idea of a commission looking at these things and making some recommendations. And so that is the end of the summary.
Thank you for the overview and explanation of that. And I really appreciate you jumping on this and doing the work to pull this together with the support from our finance team in the town and the district. So thank you for pulling that together quickly. I think it's really important. Any other questions? Comments? And then I will make a motion to approve this this resolution and submit it to our representatives. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by McDonald, second by Spitzer, and we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Demling?
Demling, aye?
Mr. Harrington?
Harrington, aye.
Ms. Lord?
Lord, I.
Ms. Spitzer?
Spitzer, aye.
And McDonald, aye. So I will connect with Sasha tomorrow to get a signature and get this sent off to our representatives. Thank you. And next we have warrants, and I have one, well, two. They're in one document, so it will go quickly. I authorize payroll in the amount of $683,980.55 for dated June 30th, 2021, and I signed that today, July 1st, 2021. I also authorized by payroll in the amount of $298,764.19, dated June 30th, 2021, and I signed that also today, July 1st, 2021. And that is all I have for warrants. Next up is gifts, and we do have a couple. Would somebody like to make a motion? Since I have it up, I will move that we accept the gifts. The following gifts from donor Rafaela Paul Vegiard, number 7226, to support the Susan Vegiard Camp Scholarship in the total amount of $200. From Mary Ellen McCarthy Revocable Trust, number 671, to support the Susan Vegiard Camp Scholarship in the amount of $100. From Feliz Diaz Arango, to support Susan Vegiard Camp Scholarship in the amount of $100. From Marta Moselle, to support Yamaha model number 6345G professional trumpet with case and accessories with an estimated value of $1,200, for a total cash gift of $400. There is, no, that is the value of the gift. So is there a second?
Lord, second.
Moved by McDonald, seconded by Lord. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Demling?
Demling, aye?
Mr. Harrington?
Harrington, aye.
Ms. Lord?
Lord, I.
Ms. Spitzer?
Spitzer, aye.
And McDonald, aye. The motion passes unanimously, 5-0. And now, without further ado, I will note also that we are 21 minutes early. I think that's a record. So
I mean, after 22 straight months, 21 minutes early is maybe not something to be.
I'm still going to take it. It's a nice way to end the year. I will move that we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by McDonald, second by Harrington, and there's no discussion. Roll call vote. Mr. Demling?
Demling, aye.
Mr. Harrington,
Harrington, aye.
Ms. Lord,
Lord, I.
Ms. Spitzer,
Spitzer, aye.
and McDonald, I. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.